Hi everyone, my name's Lauren Arnson, and I'm so excited to get to present my book to you today. Um, Before I start though, I just wanted to say everyone's presentations have been so great so far, and I've just been super impressed watching all of you guys, and I've learned a lot from the books you presented and read a couple of them. So um, yeah, just anyways, hopefully mine can kind of not compete with you guys, but at least measure up a little bit. The book I read is called Okay for Now. Um, his name is Gary D. Schmidt. Um, the book takes place in 1968, and that's during the Vietnam War. Um, there's a little bit of that in here, but it's by no means a history book. I would categorize it under contemporary realistic fiction, and I'll kind of go through why I think that is as I tell about the book more. Um, okay, so the main character in the book is Doug Switek. That's how I pronounce his last name. If any of you have read it, I might be pronouncing it wrong, but he's a young boy, and he comes from a lot of heartache. His life is a little bit difficult, but you just grow to love him so much throughout the entire novel. Little bit of background, he was living in a town in New York, and then they had to move to a place called Marysville. And the town he ended up going to, he hated it. He just hated it so much. He called his new home the dump. That's what he refers to it throughout the entire story. And he comes from a pretty poor family. His father was fired from his job, and that's what caused the move. Um, Upon moving, you learn throughout as the story unfolds that his father is very abusive, verbally, emotionally, and physically to both Doug's mother, Doug himself, and his brothers before him. Doug's the youngest of three boys. So Doug has kind of a hard life, and I think that is one of the main things that makes this more contemporary realistic fiction, because it is fiction, it's not a real story, but the characters in it are so relatable, and there are so many things that really could happen in real life. Um, okay, so I would label this okay for children to read, but I would say that it's for upper grade levels just because of the content that's in it. They never say anything explicit, or he never even really talks about the specifics of the abuse his father does to his mom and himself, but it's implied and you understand that that's what's happening. Okay, so Doug moves to this new town called Marysville, and he hates it. He starts school there. The teachers don't like him. People accuse his older brother of stealing, and so Doug isn't liked by a lot of the people there. Um, until one day he meets a girl named Lily, and they end up becoming really good friends. Um, and their relationship grows, and towards the end they do become more than just friends, but it never escalates to too much. Anyways, he's super hard at first. Doug is the main character. He's very hard and closed off and tries to be something he's not. He tries to be cool, and very much so how I imagine a young teenager would be, maybe a 12-year-old would be, 12 to 14. But he becomes friends with Lily, and they go to the library every weekend or so. I think it's every Saturday. Become really close with a man that works at the library. And this man takes notice that Doug likes to look at art a lot more than he likes to read, which he doesn't know how to read at the beginning of the book. I'm just giving spoiler alerts, but this man notices how much Doug loves art, especially these pictures of birds. Throughout the book, Doug kind of really has an emotional connection with each of the paintings he sees. And I'll just show you a couple of them. At the beginning, the first chapter, this is the picture that goes with it. That's called the Arctic fern. And he relates with that bird because it looks like it's falling. It looks like it's just doesn't know what to do, and that's how Doug feels at the beginning. I'll show you a couple more. These are the red-throated divers. and they represent Doug's family and how the adult figure is kind of looking away from the children and not towards them. He feels like that is pretty accurate in his life too. I'll show you one more. And that's the black-backed gull. And that's kind of self-explanatory too. He feels like he's falling most of the time and can't help himself even though he wants to. Okay, I'm taking up so much time, but there's a little bit more. So Doug starts to paint or sketch. I guess he's not painting, he's sketching these birds, and starts to put his own personality, his own experience into his drawings. And it's really beautiful, the turn you see, the growth you see him making as he does this thing that he loves. And you can tell that his art gives him peace and comfort, and helps him through all the hard things he goes through throughout the novel. I think that this book is extremely relatable, and I would so recommend it for children to read, older children to read. Like I said, people can relate to moving to a new town. I can. I remember moving when I was 8 years old. They can relate to family troubles, maybe if not abuse, which I think a lot more people than we want to think do go through that. But if not abuse, then just family troubles, just arguments with siblings, or not getting along with your parents or something. Kids can relate to that a lot of the time. Also, one of his brothers went to war, I think, and then he ends up coming back with a disability from a bomb that went off. So I think a lot of people can relate to that as well, whether they have parents in the military, the army, fighting in a war, who have fought in a war, or who have siblings with disabilities and helping them cope with that. One thing that I really want to hit strongly that I loved about this book is because of Doug's family life. He doesn't have a lot of adult figures that he can look up to, that he can trust in, and his teachers end up being some of those adults. It might not seem in the middle even of the book, but towards the end you see how much they impact him and how much their love and their care help Doug to overcome his struggles and to become better than his father is and not the man that he is, which is kind of Doug's goal, is to decide who he wants to be and to be better than his father was. So I would recommend this book 100%. It's so, so good. I read it about a month ago and I haven't been able to stop talking about it with my friends since then, so they're probably annoyed, but I just love it and I would really recommend it. Anyways, thanks so much for listening. Sorry I went a little over time, but I just can't stop blabbering on about this. So I hope everyone has a good day. Thanks so much. Bye.